Chairman Collins, Ranking Member McCaskill, and distinguished members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today to testify about my father's unwitting involvement in a romance scam which targets seniors to smuggle drugs. My father was arrested in Madrid last July, having nearly 2 kilograms of cocaine in his possession, worth approximately $400,000. He had no idea that he was carrying drugs. He went to Peru thinking he was taking real estate documents to a woman in London whom he met and fell in love with online. The idea that my dad is now a convicted drug smuggler, sentenced last month to 6 years in prison, is surreal. My dad, a retired pastor, had no prior criminal history of any kind, not even a speeding ticket. He never drank, never smoked, never swore in his entire life. However, he did have his shortcomings. He was too trusting of people and overly gullible. 7 years ago, at age 70, my dad found himself single and lonely, so he moved in with my sister. Dad would go on internet chat sites to pass the time. One day, Dad meets Joy, an attractive woman in her 30s who claimed to be from Nigeria but living in the UK. Joy and Dad exchanged life stories and photos, and they would spend hours chatting nearly every night. Dad quickly became infatuated with her. The true identity of Joy remains a mystery, but suffice to say, Joy and her associates destroyed my father's life. As a struggling artist, Joy claimed to be poor and hungry. Even though Dad's only income was a mere $1,000 per month that he got from Social Security, he would often forego paying my sister rent so that he could instead support Joy, which he did for 6 years. Joy gave him lots of attention, told him she loved him, and wanted to marry him one day. Joy told my dad that she inherited a large estate in South America from her wealthy father who was murdered in Africa. The property was worth millions and she wanted to sell it, but the deed was in Peru. She was unable to get a visa to go herself, but if he would go and bring these real estate documents to her, they could have a very comfortable life together. Dad promised he would go for her if she could find a way to pay for his trip. Joy, allegedly not having any money either at the time, put the trip on hold. Last year, my father met and married a local woman. He tells Joy that he needs to end their relationship. Joy reminds Dad of his promise to help her with the real estate papers. She offers to pay Dad a significant amount of money if he would go to Peru and bring papers to her in London. Broke and wanting to recover the money he had sent Joy over the years, Dad decides to keep his promise. Joy tells Dad her family attorney would meet him with the papers at the airport in Lima. Dad was to rest up a night or two at the hotel and then fly to London, deliver the documents, get paid, and return home. Against his new wife's advice, Dad boards the plane to Peru. When Dad arrives in Lima, nobody is there to meet him. He calls Joy, learns the attorney was delayed, and is told to wait at the hotel for him. After a few days, Dad has no more money for the hotel and has not yet heard from the attorney. So Joy wires him some money via Western Union, informs him that the lawyer would be there soon, and requests him to continue waiting. After 10 days, a man finally shows up with 2 sealed packages that felt like books. He gives the books to Dad and a plane ticket to London. The man informs Dad the books were sealed for protection, but if security wants to inspect them, it's okay to go ahead and allow them. This apparently satisfies my father, so he never looks at the contents. The following day, Dad places the package in his carry-on bag and boards the plane to London. He has 2 stops to make, one in Madrid and then on to Dublin, where he was to spend 2 days before continuing on to London. Upon arriving in Spain, airline staff meets my dad with a wheelchair to take him to his connecting gate. He is stopped by security who see the books during X-ray exam of his carry-on. To my dad's horror, they find cocaine. It takes a couple of weeks for me to learn that Dad has been arrested. A few weeks after that, Dad's new wife tells him that she wants a divorce. She'd been getting frightening calls from men looking for my father and was forced to change her phone number. My wife Lisa and I flew to Spain last October to visit my father in prison. Dad was overwhelmed when he saw us and broke down in tears. He kept telling us how ashamed he was and how stupid he felt having fallen for this scam. He honestly thought Joy was his friend and he trusted her. Joy was never pushy about the trip to Peru until my dad announced that he was married. I guess at this point the scammers felt that this was their last chance to use my father. Now at age 77, Dad may very well spend the rest of his life in prison. He is in very poor health. He has prostate and heart and back problems. He's supposed to have surgery on his back 2 weeks after the trip, which of course hasn't happened, leaving him in constant pain. He faints all the time and is being kept in the prison infirmary. When Lisa and I saw him, he looked frail and his mental capacity was in obvious decline. He seemed confused about different aspects of his ordeal. He just wants to come home and not die in prison. I will close with the last paragraph from the first letter my dad wrote us in prison. Dad writes, "I want to thank you both for not abandoning me here. What to do once released if I don't die here? I have no idea, as I am now homeless again. How I miss my wife. I feel so terrible for all the pain I caused the woman I loved. I only wanted to provide her more than Social Security allowed, but never anything illegal. I trust you believe me. Love, Dad. Thank you again for the opportunity to share my father's story with you. I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. I want to tell you how much it means to the committee that you are willing to publicly share your father's story, because I believe it will really help others who have been targeted by these horrendously unscrupulous criminals. I guess all criminals are unscrupulous, but this is so heartless. And the idea that your father is in prison is just extraordinary to me. We look forward to questioning you and learning more.
Chairman Collins, Ranking Member McCaskill, and distinguished members, on behalf of Secretary Johnson and Director Saldana, thank you for the opportunity to discuss ICE's efforts to investigate and thwart criminals who target the elderly with nefarious schemes that rob them of their dignity, their money, and potentially their liberty. Homeland Security Investigations, or HSI, is the investigative arm of ICE and conducts criminal investigations to protect the United States against terrorism and other criminal activity that threaten public safety and national security, and to bring to justice those seeking to exploit our customs and immigration laws worldwide. In its investigative capacity, HSI enforces more than 400 federal laws and regulations with jurisdiction over investigations of crimes with a nexus to the U.S. border. As you know, there are many fraud schemes, such as phony investment pitches and business opportunities. Such scams are growing increasingly sophisticated and international in scope, and are able to victimize U.S. citizens throughout the country. Perpetrators victimize consumers of all ages, backgrounds, and income levels, but as you've seen, the elderly seem to be disproportionately targeted. Today, I want to bring to the attention of the committee and the general public an emerging trend involving the movement of illicit contraband, drugs, by unsuspecting elderly citizens. Transnational criminal organizations, or TCOs, have long sought to recruit drug couriers who appear to be unsuspicious and present the best opportunity to successfully smuggle contraband across international borders. Using various avenues available on the internet to gather information on potential victims, such as social media, cyberbegging, and phishing emails, TCOs now tailor their inheritance, romance, and business opportunity scams to recruit the elderly to smuggle narcotics through commercial air travel. The unwitting couriers travel to numerous countries with airline tickets provided or funded by the TCOs, and these TCOs often change the itinerary at each leg of the journey in an effort to evade detection. These elaborate international schemes involve these couriers meeting with alleged business partners in numerous countries during a single trip. These business partners have the courier take a suitcase or a gift that appears innocent but contains drugs to the business partner they will meet at their next stop. The average age of the couriers identified and encountered smuggling narcotics was approximately 59. And the oldest of these couriers was 87. The oldest unwitting individual HSI encountered during one of our investigations was 97 years old. HSI special agents were successful in convincing him to abandon his travel plans before he could become another victim. Through our joint targeting and investigative efforts, dubbed Operation Cocoon, HSI and U.S. Customs and Border Protection, working with our foreign counterparts to date, have led to the arrest of 15 facilitators affiliated with the transnational criminal organizations behind these schemes, and the interdiction of a total of 272 kilograms of methamphetamine, 209 kilograms of cocaine, 4 kilograms of ecstasy, and 11 kilograms of heroin. As evidenced by the video testimony you just saw, whenever possible, HSI has worked to prevent potential elderly victims from departing the United States if we believe they may be unwittingly utilized to smuggle narcotics, as we did with Mr. Siebert. Unfortunately, there are instances when the recruited individuals are so engaged by the underlying scam used by the criminal organization, they do not believe they are being duped. Often these organizations warn their victims to not believe anyone who approaches them as law enforcement. HSI has warned elderly couriers concerning their potential role in this type of scheme, only to have the elderly victim continue with their travel and subsequently get intercepted in other countries with narcotics. This is why it is so important to raise the public's awareness of these types of fraud schemes. We need to be discussing these schemes with our loved ones, both young and old, and reiterating the adage, if it appears too good to be true, then it probably is. Thank you again for the opportunity to appear before you today. I look forward to working with the committee to raise awareness and to eliminate the opportunities for these criminals to prey upon our senior citizens. I'd be happy to answer any questions.